My name is Betty Gaedtke, and I'm down in my studio, and I thought I would just share a couple things with you. I make Quapaw pottery, and one of the things that the Quapaw did were the coil work. So I just kind of rolled some of this out in a thick manner and just kind of sliced them, and then I'm going to roll these and turn them into a coil. So I'll just lay them to the side, and I'm not going to use all of them, but I can spritz them a little bit if I want to and put a plastic over them, and that will keep it moist. So you can see how they grow. They don't have to be perfect. You can see they're not perfect. That doesn't really matter because we're going to be working it anyway. So let's do one more right here, and then we're going to go over to the vessel that I'm working on. All right, so let's take this over to the vessel. Okay, so now we're back over here across the room, and I'm just adding the coils to this existing pot. I lifted up, but it's still very wet. So I've already added the coil around the top of this, and now I'm just going around and I'm pinching it thinner. I'm going to do this all the way around the top of the edge. And you know, as I'm pinching it, it's making that wall thinner and pushing the clay up. I use a paddle quite a bit, and I use a scraper. So you can see it's starting to lose its shape. So I would take a little time and just start pulling this rim into the inside a little bit. And anytime you push on clay, whether it's the inside of a pot or the outside, you need to put some kind of support behind it. You know, we've kind of stretched this up on the outside. You can see it's starting to stand up taller. And then we're going to come back and maybe try and start working it in. All right. Then I'm going to come back, because you've got to work on the inside of your pot as well as the outside, because this is going to be a wide mouth pot and you're going to be able to see all that in there. So I'll just take my scraper and maybe pull this up. You can see there's a line through here, and this is where we added our coil, so we definitely have to work on that and work that line out. And the clay at the top is still thicker than the walls below it, so we're probably going to have to, the patience is the most important thing, and I didn't used to have any, and I have found patience, if you just be calm and cool, take your time. You know, you may not get her done going around that rim the first time or even the second time, but just keep stretching it up. We're getting there. You can see it's starting to look a little smoother and thinner. And then we're going to let this pot rest after I work on the inside just a little bit. It's too wet to add another coil. So what we're going to do, so that I can come back to this later, you can see that looks a whole lot better, but there's still a lot to do on it. And that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cover up the rim. So I have these little cloth strips that I soak in the sink, and because we don't want the top rim to dry out, I'm just going to add just a little damp cloth around here. And then we're going to walk away from it for a little while. I've got another one. You can see that that's uneven, but that's not a big deal right now because we'll catch it up on the next coil that we add to it. Maybe if I added a coil that might be just a hair thicker here, by the time we build it all up and stretch it thin, it should come out pretty level. But, you know, if it doesn't, that's what this tool's for. We'll just trim it off level. We let this pot set for a while. I actually moved on and did some other work on some other vessels, and I'm coming back to it today. So when we left it, I put these little wet pieces, strips of fabric, and put them just over the lip of your pot to keep that part of your vessel wet. And then, of course, you know, we're trying to get this down here to set up a little better. So right now, I'm not taking it out of this holder. So what we did before we finished, I went around and pinched again all the way around, trying to make this top edge as thin as I can. Now, it's pretty thin, down, you know, a good inch. And then, you know, we're kind of losing the levelness of the pot. So I went around and just kind of rough hand took the lowest spot on the pot, and I'm just going to run my sharp tool around here because the clay is still very soft, and just trying to even this, level it out, I guess, a little bit better. So, because we're getting ready to add another coil. So, just throw these over here to the side. I've got water over here to keep these wet. And I use that for bonding pieces together. A lot of my work has a lot of applique to it. Basically, that's what we're doing here as well. We've kind of trimmed this top edge. You can see it's a little more level. It's not perfect, but it's good. It's better. So now what I want to do is I want to just curve in the edges just a little bit more. And I can do that a couple, 2 or 3 different ways. So one of them is that we could just take a scraper and lightly scrape and bend in. And of course, you always want to support the back side of your clay because it is wet. All right, so we just want to go around. I've got a lot to take out as far as wrinkles and stuff, but I'm not really concerned about that right now. I'll work on it more after I put another rope on it. Okay, so that's a little nicer. Always try and keep your circle straight. Another thing that you can do is just kind of tap it. And you can see that takes some of the wrinkles out. You're not going to accomplish what you want all in one setting. I'm going to be working on this lightly 2 or 3, 4 times in a circle as it's going around. And it's also stretching that clay, and it's also making it just a little bit thinner so that we can add another coil. See how it's coming out? All right. All right, and another thing I'm going to do is just lightly pat the top and try and force it in. And then the next coil, we're going to work it in even more. All right. That's a good place to start anyway. All right, so when I'm putting 2 pieces of clay together, I always score the clay. And when I say score, it's basically just roughing it up and making an uneven surface. So, all right, here's my little scraper. I keep losing the handle on it, so I gave up. And so I'm just going to go around here. You can see what I mean, how I'm making these gouges in the clay. One of the things I also do is when I'm putting two pieces of clay together, I try to make sure they're moist. So I'm just going to put a little bit of water on here. And then while I'm working on my coil or my rope, that can be breaking down this clay just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so here's a couple coils. Might as well start with the longest one. And I also score them. So just rough up one side of it. Do it on both of them. One's probably not going to go all the way around. And again, I will add a little water to that. It helps your clay to seal together. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to adhere it. Just go around and squeeze them together. All right, I don't like how that looks, so we're just going to make that a little wider. All right, so when I join two pieces together, you can see how I just kind of flattened that out, and so that it's not just a big hunk like this. And I'm going to do the same thing to there, and we're going to score that as well, and just pick up again. All right, so now we've got the coil. Now we want to work it. And again, I'm going to go around and squeeze these and make sure that they both are adhered to the rim of the bowl. And it's kind of the same process as we did before. We're just going to squeeze these. All right, so now we want to take our thumb and just start pulling that clay down. And make sure you hold the vessel on the back side, or it's just going to, see how that gives? So we want to make sure that we give it some stability on the back side. Okay, so we've pulled it down on the outside. You know, we're just going to go back and clean it up. That's where your little scraper might come in handy. And just kind of work it in. I'm not going to do a whole lot of it on this go around because we've still got to do the inside. All right, so now we're going to work a little bit on the inside. You can see that that's got to be all joined together. I might even use my scraper for this. Just start working it. Okay, so I want to just work this back in a little bit. So here's a little pinch pot that I made, and I like the curvature on it, and I use it a lot to help form the rim going in. You can see that it's starting to take its shape again. So let's just take a scraper. This one's rubber. You know, the Quapaws didn't use rubber. Would have been more like a shell or a handmade tool. But you can see how that's cleaning up pretty good. So I've been working on this for a little while. It takes me several days to do a pot because you do have to keep walking away from it, letting, you know, the clay dry just a little bit and gain some strength. And, you know, if we keep working on this while it's wet like it is, it'll just collapse. It's not going to be able to keep taking on all that weight. And you can see we're starting to curve in. I'm going to work on curving this in a little more because I don't want this vessel to go up in height anymore. So I want a nice round rim on it. And we'll come back and add another one. So basically, I've just showed you how to put a coil on, which is what the Quapaws did. And we're just going to keep repeating the process until we get what we want out of this vessel. So I'm going to pinch it a little thinner. And again, when I get ready to let it set, I'm going to take these wet pieces of fabric and put around the rim. And all that's going to do is keep the rim from drying out. And we want the rest of this to dry out so that it can, you know, the drier this gets, the more weight that we can keep putting on top. So that's our goal right here, right now. You can see that this vessel has taken on a little bit of different shape. I've curved it. You know, I still need to burnish shot it and take some of, you know, this out. I'm going to either decorate it in red and white slip paint, or I'm going to incise on it. But right now I'm going to put the rim on. So I've already scored it. I've already scored both pieces of clay. And I'm just going to take this around. All right, so I'm going to just slice through here. And I always do it at an angle. It adheres better. And of course, same thing as everything else. You want to score both pieces of clay.